Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa. So welcome. Okay, I'm just getting green light that we are live now, because yesterday something extraordinary happened. As you all know, we were live, but our screen was just black. So now I became nervous. Each time I'm live, I have to wait for Iya, who is right here doing the technique, to give me a go ahead. I hope everything is okay out there. Patrick, give me a sign. Naisha, give me a sign if everything is fine, if the screen is all right. Not that we got shot like yesterday. So anyway, let me start by welcoming all of you that are joining the show tonight. And particularly, as you can see, when the prof is here, then it is time to sit upright. Then there is always something that he has noticed and bringing our attention to it. Are we sleeping? Are we working hard? Are we on the right track? What time are we on? Who is doing what? What is our responsibilities? What is the homework for the mainland continental Africans? What is the homework for the diaspora? What is the main work for the African migrants all over? Every one of us has a homework. Who is doing what, and how interconnected and related are we? How united are we? Are we getting distractions? Are we falling back to sleep? Are we truly woke up? So tonight we're going to be having this pack up and this feedback and this education and training, as I can say, and teaching from our able Professor James, who is always here, James Small, to wake up, to spark us up. Of course, in the past, Africans have been really, really excited, and everyone is doing his job so well, playing their own role. Us on the Pan-African Daily TV, we have also been coherent and precise and concise in our duty, being very, very conscious of what time we have now and what we're doing now. Exactly same with others on the continent, like Professor Pielo Lumumba, like Dr. Arikana Shikomborikwa, and many, many others, like the Rapid Africa Plan, the Organic Africa Plan, all the everything, Sons of Africa out there, or Wadu movement out there in the States. Just a lot is going on in the background. So every one of us is playing its own vital role. So I hope all of us are getting connected before we get into the conversations. Let me just get back to the studio, because Professor James Small, it is so hard to keep him waiting. It's just hard to not get attention from him. If everything is okay on his side, I'll get back to you in a minute. Prof, are you doing well out there?
Oh, I am just enjoying Pan-African Daily TV and the opportunity to be on again. So thank you, Mama Susan Tata, Dr. Mama Susan Tata.
Thank you so much. I love that title, Mama Susan Tata, or Mama Tata.
Well, you're the Queen Mother now.
Oh, yes, I'm the Queen Mother of the Embo Kingdom, and King Bongane III celebrated his birthday yesterday. And guess who is also celebrating today? Dr. Edwin Nichols, our elder and our brain box, as we can say, celebrated his 90th birthday yesterday. Prof, over to you.
Wow. Well, I just want to congratulate our Royal Nana and King, and to congratulate our elder, that the ancestors have given them this amount of time to remain here to teach us. And may they have many, many more solar returns to bring us the wisdom of the ancestors. So God bless them all.
Thank you very much, Prof. I don't know, definitely, of course, you're current with the situations on the continent. And before we even go into the topic, when we miss you, even just for a week, it's like the whole world, like we missed you for a year. And so, but you're definitely aware that Elder Dr. Kevin Kaunda passed away, isn't it?
Oh, yes. And Dr. Kaunda was the first African president that I met when I was like 21 years old. He had a very close relationship to Malcolm X. And after Malcolm X was assassinated, I became a member of his Organization of Afro-American Unity, and I became the imam over his Muslim Mosque, Inc. And it was under those guys that I got to meet at the United Nations at a reception with Malcolm's sister, Ella, our president, President Kaunda. And I would see him again. The last time I saw him, I think, was in 1985 in Uganda at the 8th Pan-African Conference. I may have seen him once again in Ghana at another conference a year later. He was always an extraordinary, focused Pan-Africanist, completely committed to Africa. I mean, there was no wobbling in the president. And so that's why God allowed him to be with us for so long.
Yes.
To leave his wisdom with us for so long, and his model and his example of being an African man, being an African political mind, committed to the total independence of Africa. So he's now with the ancestors. He's on his journey, traveling back to his original village. So he'll be with the other ancestors and the divine, looking to see if we are carrying out the teachings they've left for us to carry out. That is our duty. So thank you, Dr. Kaunda. Have a safe journey home.
Absolutely. I mean, I smile each time when you narrate this transition. It is lively. We can feel it. We're so connected. You know, you see him walking home. We also lost a very prominent Guinea djembe player, djembe artist is called Mamadi Keita. And yesterday also we were analyzing the situation. He must be the one drumming and welcoming our elder home. Can you just imagine this?
Oh, absolutely. They're going to be rejoicing, and they're going to tell him that he did a fantastic job. You know, our traditions say when we come into the temples, the body, the matter configuration that house our energy or our spirit, the function that we are, that when we leave to come to this place, we come with a mission. And we make a commitment to a destiny. And certainly President Kaunda kept his agreement with the totality of creation, his destiny and his commitment. And that commitment was towards pan-Africanism. Yes. And I want to just tell people, you know, pan-Africanism, people think it's spooky. It is so simple. What it means is the principle or advocacy of the political union of the indigenous inhabitants of Africa. That's what it is. We're not talking about Chinese being a part of Pan-Africanism because they live in Africa, no. Or Europeans, no. We're talking about the indigenous inhabitants of Africa advocating for the political unity of our motherland, of the original place where human beings began to evolve on the planet Earth, where we were given the guardianship of the entire planet with Africa as our headquarters. Let's be clear. That's what we're talking about. So Pan-Africanism is the principles or advocacy for the political union of the indigenous inhabitants of the continent of Africa, wherever they may be abroad or at home on the motherland. And that political union comes with economic union, it comes with cultural union, it comes with spiritual or African sacred science union. That the only way we'll ever be free to be Africans is when we become Africans again. You cannot be a European in blackface and say I'm African, because that's, and when I say blackface, I don't mean the color, because we are all shades of black our browns, and our tan.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say black face, meaning you cannot come with a European mind and think you resolve the problem of Africa or an Asian mind, because the history of our existence on the planet, the Asian mind and the European mind, the only fundamental relationship they've had to Africa is that of an invader and an exploiter. And that has not changed to this day, even though they may be more benign in the invasion now, more benign in the exploitation, with how they cast the economic nets around our necks. So let's be honest. It's freedom or death. There's nothing in between that. You're either free or you're not free. And if you're not free, that is a state of death. So if we're to be free, we must become Africans again in mind, body, spirit, and economic, politics, and culture, and historical understanding of our fundamental reality, and in the worldview we form from all of that.
I'm just trying to grab so many and take up some points because it's very important, because particularly this concept of Pan-Africanism, because it also has been hijacked. Like if you want to say the difference, we have Pan-African universities that are politically oriented. Now, the difference between the Pan-African universities that are existing and the Pan-African University of Professor Theophile Obenga, can you actually just put that difference out?
Yes. Many have used the name Pan-African on the university structure because, and I think they're genuine in attempting to try and bring the necessary technology and skills to the African world from all over the world. There's no technology in the West that they didn't borrow from Africa initially and innovated on. So we have no problem taking those innovations and bringing it back to Africa to build on. That's not a contradiction. The contradiction is when you come with an ideological bent of the exploiter. So if you carry the ideology of your exploiter, then what are you going to be but an exploiter?
Correct.
So you must abandon the ideology of the exploiter. You must abandon the philosophy of the exploiter. You must abandon the glorification of the history of the exploiter. And you must turn your direction to the African who was exploited. How did they respond to the exploiter? How did they defend our integrity economically, culturally, politically, psychologically, and spiritually? That must inform what we do next. That will tell us how to protect ourselves. So that means returning to African culture, not a hybrid European culture or a hybrid Asian culture. We must return to an African culture.
Correct.
Culture is the only thing that will save a people from genocide. Your indigenous culture is the only thing that will protect you from economic genocide, political genocide, cultural genocide, and spiritual genocide, and of course, physical genocide, all of which we've experienced under imperialism and colonialism going back for 2,000 years before the Berlin Conference. You see, when the Assyrians invaded Northeast Africa, they came as exploiters. When the Greeks invaded, they came as exploiters. When the Romans invaded, they came as exploiters. When the Visigoths invaded through Spain, the Germanics, they came as exploiters. When the Arabs came, they came as exploiters. When the Turks came, they came as exploiters. And there's remnants of all of them still with us. We've adopted their culture, we've adopted their language, we've adopted their religion. How can you adopt the way of your murderer without yourself becoming your murderer?
Correct.
Let me say it again. I want people to really feel it. How do you adopt the very essence of the spirit and the intellect of your murderer, your rapist, your robber, and not yourself become a murderer and a rapist and a robber of yourself and your own kind? That's how serious it is that we get Pan-Africanism right. What Dr. Theophile Obenga is doing in Congo, Brazzaville, He's creating a Pan-African university. He has created it. It has opened, and it is still unfolding. A university that speaks from the African worldview, that speaks from the African historical perspective, that speaks from the African mind, that speaks from the African culture on how to form the African personality and the African character to meet the challenges of today's world.
I share. That is very, very crucial, because I'm bringing this. We're getting to begin to respond to the term, and we've been getting a lot of feedbacks that people actually. We've seen a lot of those universities, and most of them, I met like some of the rectors, and I asked, if you look at the curriculum, they are funded either by Catholic mission in the United States.
Well, let me talk on the Catholic thing for a minute, then we'll get to the United States.
Yes.
The Catholic Church is a part of a nation, is the umbrella title for a nation state called Vatican City. Most people in the world don't realize Catholicism is a nation state. Vatican City, which is a nation within Rome, which is the headquarters and the mind of the Catholic Church, has its own currency, has its own language, has its own government. And every piece of land they own around the world, including the land they own in Africa that we need to take back, is part of that nation state, which makes it the largest geographical nation state in the world. Let me say that to people again, because I know people don't understand.
Please.
The Catholic Church is not a religion. Religion is a part of what it is. It is a nation state called Vatican City. It is located in the heart of Rome, Italy, as a separate, independent nation state. It has its own currency, its own banking system, and its own government. And it governs around the world through its cardinals and its bishops and its priests. It has its army in terms of its Jesuits army, and that aspect of themselves that they refer to as the Black Pope. You'll need to study these things, because if you don't know who your enemy are, you will dance with them, you will kiss them, and you will sleep with them, and you will wake up dead, as we have so often. When we come to the United States, that sometimes plays benign when it comes to imperialism and colonialism in Africa. We again need to study the history of the United States. It evolved out of a British colony in North America in 1776. Ironically, it was first led by a Black man in what was called the Continental Congress from 1773 or 4 until 1776, when they incorporated themselves as the United States. That Black man, I think his name was Mr. Henson, they don't refer to him as a Black man because that would be too obvious. So they say he was a Moor from Africa. One of the wealthiest men at the time in America, because he was into shipbuilding or something. He was truly the first president of the United States before George Washington, and they won't even mention him in the history books. That's the first step in America's hypocrisy. But for over nearly 200 years, they kept in slavery more than 4 million Africans from all over the continent. Those are the people out of whose ethnic nation I grew. We built all of the wealth that America has. Without us, America would be a swamp, economically, politically, and culturally. And having built this nation and built all of the wealth that you know in America, all of the wealthy family in America, the ones that make up the 1%, came into that wealth through free African slave labor, okay, which continues to today. The Africans in the United States, we are the 4th or 5th largest African nation in the world. And yet America treats us and our mother continent in as disrespectful and marginal way as any inhuman being could do. And sometimes we let them escape because people say, oh, they didn't own any colonies. If you study the history of the Berlin Conference in 1883, 4, and 5, America was at the table financing Germany, financing Britain, financing France. You understand? Mm-hmm. I don't have to send my armies, but there were many occasions they did send their armies to bolster the armies of Europe, who would then invade Africa, cut it up into these little nations we have today for the purpose of conveniently robbing us of our raw material and our natural wealth. Well, America financed much of that and was and still is the recipient of much of the wealth that flow out of Africa. Congo would be a classic example of them having admittedly been involved in the murder of Patrice Lumumba. Mm. The world knows they were involved in the murder of Brother Kabila. And we know that the American and Canadian corporations pull more wealth out of the Congo than any other country in the world. And yet the Congo is in total havoc and total chaos because they maintain that havoc and chaos. They give the weapons, they organize those cadres of military people to keep the disruption there so that they can keep pulling the wealth out without being challenged by a legitimate government. You know, it was Joseph Sese Seko Mobutu Wazabanga, that criminal whose name I should spit every time I call, was totally financed, backed, and controlled by America. It put Congo in the situation she is. So that's, again, you know, my little thing. Learn your history and you get rid of Europeans' mystery. Learn your history, get rid of Europeans' mystery. And you'll know who your friends are. And Africa has no friend. We only have smiling faces that have come to rob us. We have smiling faces that have come to rape us. We have smiling faces that come to confuse us. So that you can have every nation in Europe in 1885 invade Africa and they don't even call it a war. Imagine now, every nation in Europe, including the United States, invaded our continent from north, east, south, and west, killed millions of our people to get control of our natural resources, carved up our country, destroying ethnic groups, destroying cultural base, destroying spiritual centers, and they don't even call it a war. And we don't call it a war. You know, that's the sad part. And they have some little skirmish in Europe, and they call it the First World War. No, the First World War was the invasion of Africa by all of the European worlds after the Berlin Conference. That's the First World War. And both the European so-called First World War and the Second World War were fought over the resources of Africa. But if you do not know your history, if you don't have a Pan-African university, and you're regurgitating European historical lies, then you won't understand what I'm saying, and you won't really appreciate Pan-Africanism for what it was worth. And may I use the moment, as I always do, Susan, to recommend some books our readers to read.
Yes.
And I have actually 5. There's so many more. But I want my favorite father, Kwame Nkrumah. Let me get it right. Africa Must Unite by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Yes.
First president of Ghana.
Check and
yep. The cultural unity of Black Africa, a must-read. Black Africa, where he deals with the economic and cultural basis for a federated state. This is also by Cheikh Anta Diop. Black Africa, the economic and cultural basis for a federated state. And then you have one of my professors,
cultural unity,
Kamuti Katemi, who lives in Kenya today. And like Theophile Abanga, who was also one of my professors, he wrote this book before leaving America years ago, We, the Pan-Africans. and he breaks it down. And the last one is one I always like to show. This is my king.
Mm.
And this is African culture in governance and development by Dr. Nana Kwabena Nketia V.
Yeah. Yes.
Amanhini of Esokado, Western Region, Ghana. If we were to just begin with those books, we will have a great sense of what true Pan-Africanism is. There's much more and many more. George Padmore and others who have written good works, but these speaks to our contemporary situation in such a manner that I think those were the ones I would put forth today, because it'll speak to the question of our behavior, even in social media today, and why we must even approach our behavior in social media and in these platforms we're setting up, and the relationships that these platforms should have to one another, if we want to truly see the realization of Pan-Africanism begin to flourish. You see, 60% of the youth of the population of Africa is African youth between 15 and 25. 60% of the population of Africa is youth. Okay. So our whole future is riding on what we do. The population of our continent, as of this moment, because I was looking at the moment by moment population reading, we are 1,375,410,787 as of 2:31 Eastern Standard Time. 1,373,410,780 something. That's not counting those of us in the diaspora in Europe, Central South America, Brazil, Colombia, North America, and Canada. That's nearly another billion people. So we're about 2.5 billion people that must be united around Pan-Africanism. And if we can get that clear, we'll understand our worth. The continent of Africa, with all that has been stolen from it, still has under its earth nearly 40% of the natural resources of the world. Do you hear me?
I hear. We hear.
Under the ground, not yet touched. The thieves and the marauders and the traders and the collaborators. Nearly 40% of the natural resources of the world. That belongs to that 60% of our population who's our youth, who's our future. It is our job to help guarantee a Pan-African reality that allowed them to enjoy the fruits left by our ancestors and the divine itself to them. And I'm not speaking esoterically. Let me make clear to people when I'm talking about divine, I'm not talking about a dead white man on the cross. I'm not talking about a mystical God of the East. I'm talking about the total universe out of which the first African Black woman emerged to give life to everything else on this planet. And you cannot disprove that biologically, anthropologically, paleontologically, because it is the only truth there is. And either we're going to accept the African truth, or we're going to accept the lies of those who have been murdering, robbing, violating our human rights, committing genocide against us for centuries. It's as simple as that. You can't color it anything else other than for what it is. You know? You understand how I presented this. I wanted to present it in a way so people could feel it, because it's real. It's not, I don't even want to get into detail. You do the studying and get to the details. I'm giving you the general picture. Look at it and find yourself in the frame. And there's just so much more. I did a piece just on the natural resources, right? For people to see and hear. And let me see if I can find it. Just some of the nations, right? When we talk about diamonds, most of the world diamonds is in Angola, Botswana, Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Sierra Leone. Most of the gold of the world is in Benin, Burkina Faso, Djibouti, Mali, South Africa, Tanzania, and Ghana. Most of the nickel and uranium in the world, the majority, is in Burundi. Now you see why they committed the genocide. Now you see why the French president went to apologize, because they orchestrated that genocide against the Tutsi people, Rwanda. Fish. We think fish is nothing. Europe gets almost 1/2 of its fish, if not more, from Africa. You didn't know that, did you?
Mm.
Fish is the main protein staple for the world. And if you're talking about fish, you're talking about the Comoros, Guinea-Bissau, Mauritius, Sao Tome and Principe, Senegal, the Seychelles, and the Great Lakes region of Africa, Uganda, Rwanda, and Congo. Fish. They make us think of the Dutch having all the tulips. But if you go to Kenya, we see all the beautiful flowers in Europe and Germany. And when you get up in the morning, they have all the flowers in the box. Well, it came from the airport, from the planes that flew in from Kenya the night before.
Absolutely.
We need to see the pictures so people can stop bamboozling us with what they're stealing from us. We're talking about timber, we're talking about Liberia, Ghana, and other areas. We're talking about titanium, we're talking about Gambia. We're talking about graphite, we're talking about Madagascar. You know, we're talking about tobacco, we're talking Malawi, iron ore, Mauritania, phosphates, Western Sahara and Morocco, aluminum and gas, Guinea, Mozambique, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Angola, Sudan, and more. And we're talking about copper, for God's sakes, that makes Gambia, you know, and Uganda. So if you want to understand why we need pan-Africanism, how in the world, with all of the wealth I just read off, should there be one impoverished African, not only on the continent, but in the world? How? Because somebody has sold us a lie about reality. Somebody has sold us a lie about their history and our history. Somebody has sold us a lie about divinity and spirituality, and we bought the lie. Somebody have used their military and their intelligence assassin squads to murder more than 30 or more of our legitimate presidents over the decades, to intimidate and frighten us into submission to their lies. Is it plain enough? I'm trying to be, Malcolm said, make it plain, make it simple so people understand it. All of this wealth, 60% of our population being youth. This is the wealth on the ground, not what they've stolen from us. We can tell them, keep everything that you've stolen, just don't come back no more, go away, leave us alone, and we will be fine. And we have scattered all over the world through Europe, Canada, and the Americas, millions upon millions of continental Africans who have gone to the West, have learned the technologies in medicine, learned the technical sciences, have learned the technologies in industry, have learned the technologies in the space context, have learned all of these things. They need to now begin to come back home, so we can build the indigenous African industrial infrastructure that can handle our natural resources in the best interests of African peoples. Yes, they will come with their armies and they will want to murder us and kill us as they've done for centuries. But most of them know they can never defeat us. They never defeated us before. They just gave us a setback. We're coming up out of that setback. But we have the minds that can negotiate real relationships. So yes, we do have to sell your commodity. That's the way the world works. But let's sell it so that we don't sell a petroleum contract where our nation is getting 10%, 15%, and the enemy's nation is getting the rest. That's ridiculous. We sell a gold contract and we getting 10%. A diamond contract, we're getting maybe 12 to 15%. And when they mine these things in our nation and take them out as raw materials, we're left without any industrial infrastructure that came about as a result of this raw material. So all of it gets put on a barge, which goes out from our docks and go into the big mothership's belly and plant themselves and come back with the tugs for more barges. I used to stand on the docks in Takoradi, Ghana, and wonder with amazement, what the hell is going on, as I watched the manganese and the bauxite loaded onto foreign ships. And the most work we get is to be dock hands. With our bauxite, a process that takes 6 steps. Why can't 3 steps be done in Africa? And then we send the pellet in the 4th step for you to build your industry with in the West. Why are you taking my raw material and all 6 steps is done in your country? So your people are employed, they got insurance, they got good health care, they have automobiles, they can buy nice homes, send their children to college. And my children's father is dying from the dust in the mine. And that's all they got to show for their labor. And we don't have any surplus capital to really build the medical infrastructures we need to attend our people, build the roadways we need to move our people, build the schools we need to tool, train, and prepare our people for the task ahead. Pan-Africanism is the total unity around things economic, political, and cultural by the indigenous inhabitants and the diasporan children of the continent of Africa, period. There's no mystery about what Pan-Africanism means. It means unity. We must unite around the interest of African people's survival into the next millennia. That's what this is all about, really. There's a lot of lessoning, Susan.
There's a lot. I mean, I'm still trying to I've been putting down some words and, but what you said about this Catholicism is a nation, to be honest with you.
You never heard it. And you're a nice little Catholic girl, weren't you? Were you Catholic or Protestant? I know you're African now, like me. I was a Protestant slave.
I was also a Protestant. Yes, I was a Presbyterian, of course.
So now I'm an African free man, no longer a Protestant slave. You're all Protestant slave.
Never.
So, no, the Catholic Church, just go and check it out. It is a nation state called Vatican City. It sends ambassadors to every African nation. People didn't know that. Every African nation sends an ambassador to Rome, to Vatican City. They have a seat in the United Nations. But because of their infinite power, their greatest power is mind control. Because of the population, they're one of the largest so-called Western religious group in the world. That means they have the largest control over the largest portion of human minds in the world.
Correct.
Me, I want to be free, I am free. I belong only to the universe itself. Africa is the universe manifested as a human being. That's all I belong to. And if they will not let us rest, we will dismantle them both by both.
Another very important aspect, still really relating to this, Prof, is even them, like where we're sitting, you go to Rome, you don't find them in those churches, but Africans. You don't even find them, which is their nation, for instance. That's the most saddest thing. Here, the churches have become museums where people now just visit because even they themselves realize, it is not what it is. But on the continent, or even in our Black communities out here, remember, we even come to want to teach them and say they don't even know I mean,
There's psychological, spiritual, and cultural prisons that African people live in their mind. Psychological and cultural and spiritual prisons. That's what Western religion is. That's what Eastern religion is. I have no more mercy on Islam than I have on Christianity. Islam have done us no more good than Christianity. And before Christianity began to dominate in the West, Islam had already obliterated us. They ran a slave trade for 1,500 years before 1492, sending us to India, to China, to Europe, and to the Arab world. Destroying our manhood by removing our testicles and call us eunuchs so we could not mate with their women for centuries. So don't tell me about love and peace. My condition tells my story. My condition in Africa and out of Africa tells my story. And my condition tells me who have created it. In whatever God's name you have. None of them is relevant to African freedom, otherwise we would be free. So celebrate your holidays. You celebrate them without me. I celebrate only your demise.
yes. Juneteenth just was celebrated on the 19th, and we saw our elder Dr. Jeffries Leonard officiating and reminding Africans, particularly, that this is not just about the commemoration of the freedom of the slaves, because we never have been free until we, that unity is the only freedom that we should celebrate. And if we would have a day that is unity, called unity, Africans must celebrate it worldwide than this petty, order,
Right. No, I agree. We have to be very clear. We celebrate Emancipation Day and almost all of the Caribbeans who was a part of the British Empire. But yet, Britain still controls much of the Caribbean governments, legally and jurisprudence-wise, certainly intellectually and educationally, and more especially economically. In Ghana, I participated with my dear friend, the ancestor, Jerry John Rollins, and others in developing Emancipation Day in Ghana, I think somewhere back in the 90s. We would hope that that would be a kind of that Unity Day catalyst, at least for the English-speaking areas at the time. But that's not enough. We need a real, when African Liberation Day, which is now called African Day, and they should change it back to African Liberation Day,
correct,
at least the celebration of African Liberation and Freedom Day. Because those men who died in the bushes in Mozambique and Angola and Guinea-Bissau and Namibia and other parts of the continent did not, it was out of their struggle that African Liberation Day emerged as a concept, and we should not belittle their lives. And so many hundred thousands of them lost their lives in the forest, fighting to uproot the Portuguese, the Germans, the English, in Zimbabwe, and other places, the French. And so we need an African Unity Day that all Africans in the diaspora and on the continent celebrate. And that Unity Day, we could celebrate the other things. We can celebrate African Day or African Union Day or African Liberation Day, but we need a day that speaks to one question.
Yes.
African unity. Okay.
Sure.
On this day, no matter where we are in the world, we will come together across the world. Everything else must stop while we discuss and meet and strategize and celebrate our future victories over our adversaries and our past victories over our enemies. And Pan-Africanism is the pathway to developing that concept in practice. This is not about wearing African clothing.
Correct. I wanted to come to that.
But I want to wear my African clothing because it connects me to my ancestors. And you know, some people were very angry with me for a while because I beat up on them on 25th Street and said the cloth came from Holland. But let's tell us the truth. Just last week, a Ghanaian-based company tried to buy the Dutch company that makes the wax cloth that they create in Holland, but use our indigenous patterns that they steal through what we call industrial espionage.
Yes.
And when they realized it was a Black company wanting to buy them, they stopped the sale at the last moment of the sale. That's how insidious the imperialists and the colonialists still is. Last week, yesterday, I get a message from a good friend showing me the bodies, the dead bodies of the French advisors to the Fulani jihadists who have been raping and killing and kidnapping our children in Burkina Faso. The Burkina Faso army surprised them, destroyed their camps, killed both whites and Blacks. Yes, but we don't have nothing in the news. Even Al Jazeera isn't saying anything. They found drones, French drones. They found cats of ammunition, motorbanks, jeeps with those machine guns on the back. But now we've got the footprint with the dead European bodies, training these men who they were trying to pass up. Oh, they're just robbers in the bush. No, they've been trained by you to create chaos in that part of Africa. So the French can continue to steal the raw material without any of that wealth coming down to the people of Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, and on and on. So we must begin to be clear. I don't apologize for loving Africa. I don't apologize for being a Pan-Africanist. I don't apologize for bathing in my culture. Have we made mistakes? Yes, because the biggest mistake was not to recognize our enemy when we first encountered them. Our greatest mistake of today is not to acknowledge our enemy having spent centuries under their abuse. And so if our culture will give us anything back, it is our common sense to recognize truth in our face. And don't feel guilty learning the technology that they're pushing because they stole that technology from us. I can go back all the way to one of their so-called greatest philosophy, Plato. They said Plato and Socrates was the greatest they produced. And Plato wrote in his book, Phaedrus, P-H-E-D-R-U-S, the Phaedra, or Phaedrus. And he referred to us as the Ethiopians. And Plato, their great man, said this now, way back in the BC. In the ages of BC, Mr. Plato says, the Ethiopians have given the world all of its scientists. Listen to this now. This is their philosopher who we love and pray to, but we don't read. Theophila Banga reads Greek. He writes Greek. He knows what they think. That's why he can build a Pan-African University in Congo-Brazzaville. But here's Plato. He says the Ethiopians or the Africans gave the world all of its sciences. And then he starts out and says arithmetic, geometry, medicine, astronomy, truth, and he goes on. Then he said, but the greatest science of all that the Africans have given to the world is the science of writing itself. So with the greatest man saying this, why are they not teaching this? If you had gone into Spain and France and England in the 1300s and 1400s, all of their medical books, all of their surgical books was written in Arabic. Not that the Arabs produce anything, but this time the Arab have invaded Egypt, invaded North Africa, taken our libraries, translated into Arabic, and then loaned that knowledge to Europe through Spain. Know your history, you'll erase the enemy's mystery. It wasn't until the 20th century that they stopped using surgical books and medical books in a language other than Arabic in their highest places. And the Arabic language was simply used as a translation of the African language. If you go back to ancient Egypt, if you go to Russia, they have a papyrus, an African book. It's called the Moscow Papyrus. It's one of the most profound mathematical books in the world. If you go to England, in the British Museum, go to the Nubian and Egyptian section, and in the corner, they have the oldest mathematic book in the world, an African book called the Ryan Mathematic Papyri. They don't even display it with dignity. It's just quietly in a little corner. But you can buy the book in written form at their desk downstairs in the British Museum. So if I've got medical books, though, you can look at the what is called the Ibris Papyrus, which is an African medical book, or the Joseph C. Smith Papyrus, an African medical book that existed before there was an England, France, Germany, Spain, Austria, Russia. They had not existed yet. Greece has not existed yet. Roman have not existed yet. So they've stolen our books. They've learned from our books. And now they've innovated on our medical knowledge. And now they're telling us how smart they are. And we buy it because we don't know our ancestors' history. History is essential. An understanding of your ancestral indigenous history is essential for Pan-African unity. Essential for Pan-African unity.
Naisha, I hope you're taking down notes. Of course, we have to go through this to put all this, because on Daily TV, we're opening your quotes. Professor James SMALL quotes. Patrick is watching me and he's already creating that quotes, and even the books that you're putting will be recommended while we're walking in the library. But another thing that, like you said, because no other thing would save us apart from knowing our history. And we were thinking we're going to start this book class, and this book classes we talked I talked 3 days ago with Maponga. He's also putting out books on spirituality that we start a book class. So you and him, that was his proposal. Anyway, I'm already just like throwing it out, but would start these conversations really on the teachings of this ancient history. What do you think about that, Prof?
Well, absolutely. If I'm going to be African, I've got to cleanse myself of the European filth that makes up my consciousness. I've got to cleanse myself of the European filth that makes up my intellect. I'm not going to even be able to understand Europe until I've restored my African psycho-spiritual integrity. It's like we talk about things like love and friendship. They're just words. From the European perspective, they're just words.
Correct.
There is no history to show that they have any of those things in practice. We have a history to show that we have those things in practice, even for them. Even though they betrayed us and have ignored it once they've utilized us. So let's return to the womb of our mother. Not the physical womb. We can't get back in there. We're too big now. Let's return to the psycho-spiritual, intellectual, and cultural womb of Africa. In there is your soul, your economic soul, your political soul, your cultural soul, your intellectual soul, your emotional soul. We do so many things that we think is African because our skins are black or brown. But we need to examine, are the things we do Black enough for you.
Ashe. That's also another topic. Yes.
Mm.
Coconuts.
So this is about unity. This is about practicing pan-Africanism, operative pan-Africanism. That the wealth of this nation, this continent, which will one day be one nation, belongs to the people of this continent, the indigenous people, not our invaders who've made a home among us. Okay. And that the future for those 60% below the age of 25 is in our hands. And we must not disappoint them. They've been disappointed enough over the generations. This generation should stop disappointing them.
Ashe. Prof, thank you so much. I would like us to get into take just a small, when I say a break, and talk about. I just want to share an upcoming event, very important event that is coming up in Ghana, and this event was actually shifted. Iya, can you put the flyer on? We talked about it just a couple of minutes ago. So the ADDI, which we understand is the biggest wing among other organizations that have been existing, networking together to create this African Development Institute, African Diaspora Development Institute. I'm sorry about that. And it has been initiated and pioneered by Her Excellency Dr. Arikana Shikomborikwa, and who has been actually a network partner in terms of putting all the structures in the diaspora together, and even the association. So I'm bringing to attention the viewers and the audience about the trade fair of the Wakanda City in Ghana. Normally, we had communicated that it was going to take place on August, September. But please, we are so sorry for that. Not this one, not this flyer, the other one. This was the flyer that was existing. Put both together so that the audience can see the difference. Put both flyers together, yeah? Yes, because it's very important that the audience understand the difference. We would relocate a little bit from the platform, and then we give the space to these flyers. Because a lot of people knew about this save the date flyer with from August to September. No, because of COVID and because of infrastructural restructuring and adjustment, we have moved. I need the two Wakanda flyers on the screen, both. Okay. The save the date flyer is the one with the green, and then we have the latest flyer, which we are going to be communicating on and really focusing on. I want us to pay great attention on this, because this flyers conflicting, because first of all, from the ADDI, we posted this one of save the date, which is the green, and then we came up with this other one, which is also similar, but if you look at the date on it, it is in December. This flyer is in December. Why? Because the first date that we secured was not it was in Cape Coast Town. Prof, you're aware of it, okay? But now, because of all this COVID and lockdown and that readjustment, we have shifted it into this Plaza Hotel, and now the trade fair is going to take place 2 weeks, yeah, in December. And you all realize that we had already been talking about Ghana 2021, and actually we wanted to merge these organizations together. But then we sat again on the board of the ADD and said, we have to go as a collective body. So the ADDI is representing all our structures in the diaspora. And you know, the president sitting on that board is Professor P.L. Lumumba. I would introduce the whole board of the ADDI on another session, not today, but coming up next week. for us to get it really clear. These are the two flyers. The first one, save the date, is no more relevant because we shifted the date to December. So the one in orange, as you can see, yeah, you can take off the green one, is the actual flyer. You can download it, but I'll be sharing it even on our platforms as from tomorrow. The reason why we've not put the price for bookings and for networking and for all saloons, when I mean all Pan-African organizations and all diaspora institutions and organizations, is just because the correspondent that is working on the Wakanda City Trade Fair Expo by name Mr. Benson is currently in vacation and would only be available in the next coming weeks. That's the reason why we've been silent, to restructure all this setup on the event that is coming up. This event is going to be the 2020 Ghana 2020 event, but incorporating, we're going to get sub projects into it. But for us to understand, it is very important for organizations that really are looking for the gateway to the continent, either in partnership or as investors or as sponsors in all the departments and the sectors that we are on, should take spatial note. Yeah, you're just making the mistake. I told you, take this flyer out and put the other one. That's the actual one. This one is the wrong one. Thank you. So I'm so sorry. Yes, that is the update. So there are going to be spaces and speakers and keynote and really important discussions that will be taking place for this number of days. It might be 10 days or that, but Her Excellency is still working on that. You need to be a part of this. Professor James SMALL, I'm already officially telling you, you have to be a part, because I know that your complaint was September was not maybe convenient due to other issues, but now it is in December, Prof. So, I mean, I'm already reserving your spot on it as a speaker, of course, because the Pan-African Daily TV is the main media, or not just the main. We have all medias that we're connecting together. But if you go on the structure of the ADDI, the Pan-African Daily TV is actually in the space of media. So we are also going to host also a conference on Pan-Africanism, and with our speakers like Professor James SMALL on the Wakanda City. But also we want to network with journalists around the continent, content creators, bloggers on the Wakanda City Trade Fair to actually discuss the way forward for the Pan-African media, which we actually are lobbying to be bigger than the CNN and the BBCs and all that. So all these conversations and this networking is going to take place Ghana 2021. So please save the date. Everything is ready now. They're not going to be any adjustment because of date. And that's why you see we talked about the cultural event that had to take place, but we had to pull it back to say, no, we are all going as one force and one body under the ADDI. And so Professor Pierre Olumumba and on the continent on leadership would also be putting out a lot out there. So that is very, very important for all of you to take note. We're going to be communicating about this, how to register, how to participate, how to invest, how to be a partner on the ADDI platforms and more. But it is a wonderful big step to our unity, because particularly you, Prof, we were just having a conversation and you wanted actually to know the status quo, because WADU, as you said, also is a partner to this organization, or is under this network of the ADDI, which you're going to tell us. So that is it on this special note of the event that we are having 2021, okay? But on Sunday, we have a wake-up concert coming up from our youth in Uganda under the leadership of Kashmiri Brenda, whom you of Olsen, that has been a guest here, and she's doing powerful mobilization work to bring the youth together, to calm down all the post-elections and to go back to work, to learning actually about Pan-Africanism. So at each time, we're not going to be fighting each other without even understanding the basic principles. So this concept is very important that this queen is putting it out there, and it's going to be out this Sunday. More information we're going to be posting again this week. I mean, tomorrow and Saturday, for those that are really wake up to support this initiative of the youth of Uganda. Particularly, we know the state of Uganda right now, and after the post elections, and His Excellency Museveni is also now, trying to put a lot of structural adjustment. He definitely also is an elder and knows what Pan-Africanism is about. We see him in partnership with President Paul Kagame on developmental structures inside. Right. Okay, so that's very important for us to understand. Under our events and festivals, very, very important is the ADDI Wakanda City Trade Fair that will be taking place in Ghana 2021. More infos and everything registration coming up with Benson when he's right back. So back to studio with you, Prof. I think, yes, you said something about the right time, Prof.
Mhm.
It's now. Who is doing what? How should we be critical in working together? It is okay that every Pan-African takes his pace, develops something, works something. Over to you, Prof.
Right. Well, let me just introduce myself to the audience. I am the International Vice President for the WADU.
Yes.
And a lot of people, because my face haven't been up front. Most persons don't know who that person is. Well, that person is me. Dr. Leonard Jeffries is our international president.
Yes.
And I am the international vice president. But to come back to your question, we are big people. I cite that we are more than 2 billion plus Africans across the world. On the continent alone, we are 373 million plus. And so you're going to have multiple streams of interest towards Pan-Africanism. You're going to have multiple levels of development, especially in the communication and the media sector. And that's good. The thing is, how do we weave that together so that it's all connected to one platform? That's the task. But we must meet that task. And hopefully in December, we'll be able to show the workings of that task.
Correct.
That you may be from Kenya, you may be from Gabon, you may be from Mauritania, you may be from South Africa, and you may have a platform dealing with economic issues, or you may have one dealing with local news, or you may have one looking at the diaspora, or you may have one that's looking at the daily news just in your country. But all of them can feed into a singular Pan-African platform that can distribute all of that to the rest of the African world. And I know that's possible. And I know the platform that you've been building represents such a model. And you've been at it for quite some time. And we just have to deal with what are the logistics. What are the logistics? We have to get out of the way our egos. We have to get out of the way I'm going to be number one. We have to get out of the way mine is the only one. All of those European qualities and attributes that imprison our minds must be removed from the discussion.
Absolutely.
The discussion must be about unity, unity, unity at any cost.
Okay.
And I call that operative Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism in practice is African unity for the sake of African survival. And I think we can do it. I know we can. Like I said, the problem we're facing now is only logistics. Who are the different platforms? What size audience they're dealing with? What topic area they're covering? What technology are they using? How do we organize that so that it has a heart and all of their tentacles is attached to that heart, which will be the major platform for distribution of all of that information to our total people worldwide. And it's doable. It's happening in small ways. I got a call yesterday. This man is from St. Martin in the Caribbean. And he just called to tell me, I love you every time I see you on Pan-African Daily TV. I get a call from Trinidad, with people saying the same thing. I get a call from the UK. I get calls from other parts of Africa. So Pan-African Daily TV is heard across the African world. in the Caribbean, in North America, on the continent of Africa. So we've already got the thing going, but there's some logistical work we have to do, and it's going to take times. There's some principles and standards we'll have to put in place that everyone who is trying to do this work must agree to certain principles, certain standards, and a certain level of quality, you see. So the work can have an appeal to our people.
Correct.
So they listen to us, you know. So they listen to us and take guidance from all of the African minds that is brought before them in the course of a 12-month period, so that they're able to see African news, like I was talking about what happened yesterday in Burkina Faso, or the night before, where the army of Burkina Faso took on the bandits and their white handlers and made them corpse and got a hold of all their weapons and their drones. They even had biological warfare instruments. What were they trying to do? This is just a day and a half ago, yesterday. You see?
Professor Pierre, I shared the tweet of Professor Pierre Olumumba yesterday. We were talking about updates and break-ins on the on the continent. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about updates and break-ins also in the diaspora. And so there was a prominent tweet regarding to this, because we talked about this issue of Burkina Faso, and Professor Pielo tweeted talking about how shameful it is that we had a U.S. Hollywood star Angelina Jolie visiting the refugees in the Burkina Faso region while the AU is silent. That is shameful. And now you're talking about this, and she was representing the United Nations Human Rights Commission, and the questions that Africans, when they saw that tweet, and there was a kind of a commotion that people were like, but give me a break.
The United Nations,
yes,
is not a United Nations, it's a United European Nation. And Angela Jo, whatever her name is, was representing a United European Nations. We are sitting there like mannequins with no power. We're just sitting there. It's a good vacation for the presidents and their friends and their families. And they do get a chance to have their ego spilt with a nice speech. But Europe runs the United Nations, period. With China having a veto power over some of what they do. Africa has no power in the United Nations, even though we have the majority of nations there. We're just on a vacation when we go to visit there. No disrespect. Know the truth. The truth will set you free. Truth alone will set you free. Know the truth, my brothers and sisters, and the truth will set you free. How do you go to the people who are orchestrating the murders, who are orchestrating keeping us under their foot imperialistically and colonially and economically, and have a discussion about how to best do that? Because that's all the discussion is about. The discussion isn't about our freedom. The discussion isn't about fair payment for our natural resources. The discussion isn't about getting the 50,000 French troops out of Africa. The discussion is about how can I best control Africa and its people through you, the leaders of Africa, without having any complications or pushback from the people who we are exploiting and robbing. I don't care nothing about Angela Jolie. She doesn't represent anything significant to nothing. She come from the West, representing the West, who has the capital to send them there. Yes, the African Union should be compared with anybody, because we don't need all of that to go to Burkina Faso and see what's going on. But we must be cautious too, because a lot of time the African Union is involved, but they don't have a way of communicating that to its people in the way they should. Either they don't have the principle of how to do that communicating, or they don't have an established protocol that let them understand the value of communicating what they're doing in Africa to the rest of the people of Africa. But I have no respect for Angela Jolie because she adopted some black kids. They're just her slaves. You know, they're just her slaves. Because no white person qualifies to parent a black child and tell our freedom. And then we won't need them. Period. That's not hostility. No one tells the Jews it's hostile to reject Nazis, Nazisms, or the children of the Nazis. They're glorified for doing so. But we marry our Nazis. We have sex with our Nazis. We give our children to our Nazis and applaud as they're taking them away. How horrible.
Okay.
I hope I didn't upset anybody.
No, upsetting. No, we just it's very important that you share that that perspective on that quote because he's actually been putting out a lot of quotes there. Even the situation in Central African Republic, where the United Nations is condemning Russians, accusing them of human rights violation, and
that's such a joke.
is still saying, why are we just silent?
The United States human rights violation of its African population for 400 years has gone unabated, even to this day. They have no, and that's why they killed Malcolm X, you know. Malcolm X wasn't killed by the black Muslims or the Nation of Islam. He was killed by the government of the United States. And they killed him because Malcolm X was telling the rest of the world about America's hypocrisy and destroying their advantage in the so-called Cold War. And they could not have that truth told. They could not have African nations listening to the truth Malcolm X had brought to them. And so they murdered that young boy, 39 years old. And then tried to put other black hands to do it for them. But it was our government that did that. The same government that murdered Patrice Lumumba. The same government that overthrew Kwame Nkrumah. The same government that gave the thumb up to the killing of Sankara along with the French and Ufudwani. Tell the truth, and the truth will set you free. The same government that backed the French and the UN to overthrow Gbagbo when he won a legitimate election in Cote d'Ivoire. What nerve they have to come among us with a smile. When they come to Africa, they hope they never meet me. They hope they never meet an African American because we know their smile is not real. We know their hypocrisy and their lies, but they come home to our people who don't know them. See, we live in their house. We clean their house. We bathe their children. We cook their meals. We know them. We've suffered from their lynchings and their murder and being shut down by the state, who they call police, and pretend, oh, that's a local matter. It's not connected to the national state. No, it's all one thing. We know you, white America, white corporate America. Your illusions don't impress us. You can send your Angela Jolie or your whatever. They're you, pretending to show compassion. But we don't need your damn compassion. We need to get your foot off of our necks. We need you to stop stealing our natural resources. We need you to stop murdering our leaders. We need you to stop financing terrorists in Africa. We need you to leave us alone to build our governments as we see fit. Period. So those who think they can look to America for an alternative to any other exploiter, whoa, you're talking about the master dealer. This is the master. This is the master of exploitation. This is the master of murdering of African people. This is the master of lying to African people. This is the master plotting the overthrow of African governments. You come here, yes, you can get a good little job as long as you play their game. Yes, you can get a little degree from Harvard or whatever, as long as you play their game. But come and stand beside me and see how long they will treat you like you are, oh, a nice little immigrant girl from Africa. Stand beside me. Stand beside the December 12th movement. Stand beside the Black Panthers. Stand beside those who resist the tyranny and the violation of our human rights, and see how long you'll be the favorite child. Maybe 1 minute. Know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Africa for the Africans, at home and abroad, so say the Honorable Marcus Garvey. So mean the hearts of all African people. Isn't that simple enough?
As simple as local me. As simple as local me.
Okay. Look at me. You belong to me and I belong to you.
As simple as that.
All Africans to say that to each other. Look at me. You're mine. I'm yours. You belong to me. I belong to you. If you get angry with me, you can beat me up, but don't give me to our enemies to beat me. You beat me. But I want to embrace you. Just open your arms and receive my embrace. I belong to you. You belong to me.
Ashe. Mandase.
Madasiki.
Mandase. Yes. Asante sana. Asante sana, Baba Prof. Asante sana. Yes. Woo. I think yeah, I don't know. I just want to open the lines and take some questions, Baba, so you can have a little bit of rest as well. But I think informing our people and telling you the Pan-African Daily TV up. We've also gone through some passages, and we're not going to be hosting discussions that are not about our unity. We are so distracted. The Pan-African Daily TV came, and all the support from our elders, our ancestors, and everything that we're doing is for the purpose and nothing else, for unity and unity. I want to give out a shout out to our elder Elder Marvin Gaye, who is really one of the brain box when we started, and even till today, that has been supporting us in every aspect, and everything Elder Gaye has been saying is only unity, 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 nothing more. No long speeches, no, everything would fall in place. Economic, politics, culture, spirituality would fall in place when we are united. It's all about unity. Now, if we said what is actually the action for unity, because unity is mouth, is words, like you say, it's theoretical. When we're throwing out the questions to Africans that want to call in now, what is the action? If you want to translate unity into action, what would be the way forward? A lot of people, when we posted this survey, they said being unity means we love ourselves. We say, yes, love is still a word, but how do you put love into action? And then most of them, 60% said, yeah, love means, you know, we have to live with one another, with our neighbors in peace. And then we say, yes, peace is still a word. How do you put peace into action? So everything that you've been saying here, Prof, is exactly what you're saying. We want to throw out that question to you out there. Call in and tell us, what is the action for love, unity, and peace, particularly unity among the Africans, which is actually the latest, if we want to call it religion, it is Pan-Africanism. It is Pan-African. Anything Pan-African is our unity. So yes, Prof, I asked you also this question a minute later, and you said, for us, unity should be support Black businesses. Be the African that you are. Stay who you are. Believe in your ancestors, your history, and everything. Learn it day and night. That is the action plan for the word unity. Refrain from anything that is not African, anything that you didn't see or you didn't read about the stories or the history of your ancestors. Don't do it. That is unity in action. So that is Pan-Africanism. Over to you, Prof. That was yours at the end.
So the key thing is, if it doesn't give us control over our land, it's not Pan-Africanism. If it doesn't give us control over our natural resources, it's not Pan-Africanism. If it doesn't give us control over the economics where we are, it's not Pan-Africanism. If it doesn't give us control over the politics, it's not Pan-Africanism. If it doesn't return our culture from our indigenous ancestry, it's not Pan-Africanism. It's as simple as that. To be African or not to be at all. And that's why people treat us like we don't exist. They know we can't be Europeans. No matter how long we live in their country, speak their language, sometimes we speak it better than them, know their philosophy better than them. But they still laugh at us, the foolish lost child. To be African is the only thing to be as an African. And that means you must guard the interests of African politics, the interests of African economics, the interests of African culture. If it doesn't lead to the proper education of our youth so that they can take control as the next generation in terms of being in charge of land, labor, and resources, economic politics, and culture where they are, it is not in our interests. Now, the process for this is the process of learning the history of the world, particularly and especially the history of your ancestors in the world through whatever period of historical study you're going through. You know, it is essential that we make sure our children are tooled, trained, skilled, and tools, and all the means it takes to build a civilization, from making a good brick to being able to wire or to electronically put up a wind turbine. Okay. That we are able to fix a jet engine and also able to fix the Toyota truck. Or the Afro truck that's going to replace the Toyota truck. To make sure that our doctors are trained in all of the ailments that affect the human bodies, especially the ones that exacerbate us living in the tropics. And that they have the tools and the technology which exists in the world, in the hospitals where we must go and take our families when an ailment comes. Make sure that I have a road from my village to my capital. That is a legitimate freeway that I can either walk on safely or ride on safely. You know, make sure I have appropriate rest places along the way in hotels and rest houses and guest houses to get to and from. Make sure the quality of the food we are eating have not been poisoned by Monsantos and the other Monsantos of the world. Make sure the legitimacy of our indigeneity is protected every day in everything that we do. That's true love. Love is not sex. Love is not how you look. Every creature in the world in the human family looks different, and all of them are beautiful. Except that the African is most beautiful. And it is the model that all other standards should live by. And that's that. That cannot be unproven. I'm not interested in being friends with my murderers or my robbers or my rapists. I'm not interested in being friends with someone who have usurped my land in South Africa. And even after the so-called independence, the whites still control 80% of the best farmland in South Africa, 100% of the mines in South Africa. What freedom is that? It's no freedom. Give me back my natural resources and give me back my land. Otherwise, pick up the guns and let the war continue. Because you didn't win a victory. You simply said, let me be in charge of apartheid. And you go and quietly, safely away, enjoy what you have stolen from me. Yes, and I know y'all hear me, because you glorified in the so-called freedom of Nelson Mandela. And I love my elder. He did obviously the best he could, but that wasn't good enough for freedom. I remember once Mama Winnie kissed me right here on these lips. And she says, you are my revolutionary. She was dying and she lived for freedom. She knew they had betrayed the freedom cause. Those who took the fistful of dollars and are now rich in South Africa. But the whites still own the mines. The whites still control much of the military. The whites still control your lands. Where's your freedom? Your children come home and can't even find jobs. You're just managing apartheid now. What can I say? Kwame Nkrumah wrote a whole book on it. It's called Neocolonialism by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Study Neocolonialism by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. See how the thing works, and then maybe you can figure out how to dismantle it. Then we'll have the unity we're talking about. If the whites who live in Africa, particularly in Zimbabwe and Nigeria and Ghana and South Africa and Zambia and Namibia, if they truly want to walk as our brothers and sisters in arms and in love, then turn all of that wealth back over to the people of those lands and let them decide on how you will share in it. Otherwise, pick up the gun, Swampo. Battle is not yet won. Pick up the gun, PIGC, in Guinea-Bissau, because the battle is not won. MPLA in Angola, Portuguese are still running your country. Pick up the gun, the battle is not won. Frelimo in Mozambique, the battle is not won. You've simply submitted to the slavery, betrayed by even the Marxist world. The only true friend we had to come in to help with this revolution was our beloved brother and elder Fidel Castro and the African Cubanos. But Ernesto Che Guevara in the Congo and the black generals from Cuba who came in Namibia and Angola.
Hold on, I'll pick your call. Okay.
I just wanted to get that in, you know the truth. Truth will set you free.
Thank you, Prof. Let me just pick up some calls of very, very concerned followers of you. And yes, the lines are open. Hello.
Yes. Hello, Dr. Susan and Professor Smalls. This is
Hello.
Adama from America, Kansas, to be exact. I just wanted to call in first to thank you, Dr. Susan, for all the great work that you are doing, and to thank Professor Smalls. I always enjoy having him on and listening to all of the history and knowledge that he has to share. I just wanted to call in to comment about how we can put unity into action.
Yes.
Yes, you made that statement. So I am learning about the organic African paradigm, and every day that I encounter people and things or what have you, for me, I think it's important to establish trust, I guess, amongst us as Africans globally. And one thing that I do personally is to be sure that I don't disrespect or even disagree in public with any other African person. When we behind closed doors, that's one thing, but I think it's important that we show that solidarity every time we set foot out of our homes, to be able to, you know what I'm saying, show that no matter what, I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper, and that we are together, like we are going to get along. We are not going to fuel any discourse or any of the negative narratives that you have about us. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you so very much, my queen.
Thank you, my sister. I spent a lot of years in Kansas City working with the African-centered school boards there and counseling the teachers in that African-centered school with Dr. Wade Nobles and Dr. Asa Hilliard. I kind of miss being out there once a year.
We all have to go there, back, all those places that you were. Professor James SMALL. And do you want us to set another, because I would like us to still talk about, not on this program now, but on WASU, on Sons of Africa, and all those indigenous movements that actually, throw light, because, I mean, their work didn't start today, like you said. Our ancestors started this work, and most of these structures, even though they are existing structures coming now, it's as if nothing was existing. Do you just want to give a bit, just a brief, but we will have to talk about the structures.
Well, the real truth, you can't separate any of these movements from Africa. We started fighting the day we were captured, wherever it was on the continent. Many of us died by the millions before we even reached the Atlantic Ocean because we resisted. Our villages got burned. Our women got abused. Our men got murdered or were captured and put on those slave ships. Many of the people on those slave ships, especially the women, most of them were little girls from 10 to 20. All of them raped and molested on the journey to America. In America, from the time we stepped off the boat, we resisted. We resisted on the boat. Many of us got dumped in the Atlantic Ocean to die because we resisted. There's one story where I come from in South Carolina. It's called Igbo landing. But the Igbo people, when they came off the ship in chains, they just turned and ran into the waters with all their chains and drowned themselves all together. So the spirit can fly back to Africa. So that to that day, we call this place now Igbo landing. And you find that type of behavior throughout the Caribbean, Central South America, North America. We never stopped fighting as the African. Our names may have changed to Jamaican or Haitian or Trinidadian or African American, but we are the spirit of the African. We are their children who never stopped fighting. We've never stopped fighting. So when we get to a group that I helped to found called the Sons of Africa, we were reacting out of that African genesis of struggle and resistance against tyranny wherever we meet it in the world. The World African Diasporan Union, of which I'm an officer, WADU, has that same spirit. Our members come from all over the Americas, not just the United States. Our officers come from all over the Americas and some from the continent of Africa itself, who makes up the WADU. And it's an extension of the resistance from the first time anyone came into Africa and dare try to remove us from our family and our village and our home. So it is in that regards, when you speak of these movements, you're simply seeing the end of a thread that has its roots in Africa and was never broken.
Right, we pick this other call. Hello?
Yes, can I speak now?
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Okay, yeah, thank you. My name is Sekou Kiela and I'm calling from Canada.
Okay.
I just want to say thanks to Professor James SMALL. I've been following him on YouTube, watching some of his videos for the past 3-4 years, and some of us came to consciousness through teachings. I'm from Liberia originally, and we went through school without even reading anything about Sheikh Anta Diop, all these people. But through Prof James' teaching, we were able to come in contact with some of the great African scholars. So my question, I have 2 quick questions for Professor. The first one has to do with the issue of African unity. This issue of African unity, we all are aware now that we've been betrayed. The African Union have betrayed the African cause. The ECOWAS in West Africa, where I come from, they've betrayed their cause. The Francophones now are getting very strong with France, and the continent is now having military bases from all over. What is the Pan-African body doing right now to change the course of the revolution? Because we're having these conferences, yet it's working, but we will know that these people in power, which I call the Negropean rulers, are selling us back again into slavery. And they're saying that the revolution is quiet down because we think there are black people in power in Africa. But in reality, these are agents of white people ruling us now. And they are leading us 200 years backward. So with the Pan-African congresses that Marcus Garvey and others used to have, what is stopping us now for bringing all these scholars together for us to be having Pan-African conferences annually, even for us to be electing a ceremonial president? To just make a statement symbolically, be electing a ceremonial president that rule over the revolution, so that we make it clear that these people ruling us are not in the interest of the real African revolution. What is stopping that? That's my first question. The second question is the issue of books. The books we are reading in schools are books that are controlled by white Eurocentric paradigm of thinking. And the Pan-African or Afrocentric books are not in our schools. Is it possible for our scholar, great scholar like you, before you guys will leave the dancing floor for us, is it possible for us now to organize so that we can have a cultural renaissance center where books that will be going to our school should be coming out, our scholars should be writing our elementary, secondary school books, so we start imposing them on these universities. Otherwise, some of us, like I give you an example, I grew up in Liberia, I know nothing about Sheikh Anta Diop, I knew nothing about all these people until on YouTube. So it's like we've been betrayed even in the school system. So those are just my questions. Thank you. I'm sorry it's so long.
No, thank you so very much, brother.
And it's both are very good questions. So I'll take your latter question first. There's been a fight for decades to get these books in the schools. But one of the key thing is you have to see yourself as me. And I have to see myself as you. Because we can't let the few who tried to be legitimate scholars for African freedom carry a burden all by themselves. It gets very heavy. We get destroyed, we get killed, we get put in jail. And very few people even know why these things happen to us. So I need you, where you are, to organize the community that you're in, to bring these books together and make that demand on the school system that you and your children are part of. We had a good movement on it in the 60s, and we won a lot of victories, but a lot of it had gotten reversed. Almost every university in America after 1969, between 69 and 80, we had Africana Studies or Black Studies departments. Almost every elementary school, we had it. But then the enemy came back in blackface most of the time. And they pushed a lot of our Africana Studies out of the school system in America, out of the universities in America. And even in Canada, when I was a member of the association, I was president of the Eastern region for the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilization. I would come to Toronto to give lectures and to organize study groups so that we as families and communities can form study groups using these books and then form our study groups into political cells to demand the use of these books and these curriculums in our school system. We don't have to write anymore nor create anymore. We got millions of books on African history. And we've got thousands of curriculums. We need to learn about them, to study them, organize in our local communities, organize in our families, organize in our religious institution to put these things at play, first in our households, in our religious institutions, in our community institutions, and then demand the system that we are living under, that they come into the curricula of the public schools we pay taxes for, because it's not their schools. They take that money out of our paycheck to run those schools, so we should make our demands on those schools that these are the things we want for our children. And a part of what the Pan-African Daily TV and Brother PLO Lumumba is talking about is putting together for people's access those curriculums and those books. We don't have to create new ones, they already exist. We just have to give people access to the body of information so they can find it. And I think that process is on the way, thanks to Pan-African Daily TV and thanks to Brother PLO Lumumba. And I think my brother Femi also was very strong in believing that should be done.
Correct.
On the first question, where you were dealing with the African Union evolved out of the Organization of African Unity, which evolved out of a concept from Patrice Lumumba, Haile Selassie, and others who wanted to see Africa a one nation of Africa. Of course, that was sabotaged from the very beginning by those groups who sided with America, France, and Britain, who had just become independent. And that same division that was in the Casablanca group and the Monrovia group still exists within the African Union today. And so we need to make sure we are aware of the history of the Organization of African Unity, who was opposed to unity and who was pro unification of the continent. Because those same nations that was opposed to the immediate unity under the Organization of African Unity are those same nations that's opposed to it today in the African Union. So that's where history will inform you what nations we need to put the pressure on to make change. We have to organize at the very street level, at the very community level to make these changes. But they control our people through denial of food, clothing, and shelter to such a degree that our every day is a struggle just to acquire the basic food, clothing, shelter, that we don't have the time to get the knowledge or the energy to respond and react to this benign tyranny that's coming from certain members of the African Union, not from all members. There are other members fighting to create a United States of Africa. And then you have other member states fighting to keep the neo-colonial status quo. So I think the bottom line is it's not on the scholars. There's very few of us. It is on the masses who we're trying to give this information to take this information, organize where you are, organize with your friends, organize with your family, organize with your religious institution, organize in your part of town to make these changes. We give you the information. Use these information, form study groups. If you call it a cell group, they'll look at you suspicious. So call it a study group. And you form your study groups. And you study this information and study that literature, study those curricula, then formulate your demands and go to the institutions and let them know 90% of the children in here are African children. And so we want the body change.
Okay, exactly. We have to do our homework. And we've realized that it's not going to be a kind of a collective kind of like go to the schools, they own it, they own everything, they control the narratives and the curriculum, they themselves are aware of it. So exactly like you're saying, we have to do our homework, organize ourselves and put that structure out there. Thank you so very much, Prof. We are 7 minutes into the program of today, and Naisha has been warning and saying we have to be on time because we started on time. Thank you so much, Naisha. Thank you so much for that reminder. I just want to bring your attention or the viewers to the point of like, I'll still take up 1 or 2 calls, and then we are rounding up the session with Prof and expecting to have him here anytime soon next week. Hello, please keep your questions very short or your comment. Yes, so we're rounding up. Hello.
It's okay.
Oh,
it's okay.
Elder, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's okay. Okay. Am I on the air now?
Yes, you are.
Did I speak?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Professor James SMALL, Dr. Suzai, all praises to the Most High for what he's been doing in Pan-African Daily TV and all the efforts and energy that is put into the show. And to uniting our people, the curriculum education is so important. It is the foundation, it is the bedrock. If there is one thing that we can do, is to get that right. I know you make reference to what is in the book already, and but we can come together in our groups and do it. Yeah, we're doing that, but there is something fundamentally not there yet. The clear understanding that we cannot depend on the nations, and we cannot change the nation system. They're never going to let us change. Let's say we are in London. They're never going to let us change their system to facilitate us. They will do it for the Chinese. They will do it for the Asians. There is something that is about us that we need to understand about ourselves. We're a peculiar people. And we cannot try for all of these years to get along. We've been allowing ourselves to be lynched, to be murdered, to be killed, hoping that someday we'll get along. We'll have a day of celebration, Juneteenth or whatever they're calling it. This is what they know we need to put us back to sleep. Like you said, it is now or never. If we don't do it now, it can't happen anymore. And therefore, we've got to begin to grow up and remove ourselves from these nations. remove ourselves from the programs of these nations, the nations are never going to change their program to accommodate us. And so to that end, I say, we have to develop our own education system, our own social systems, our own medical systems. Yes, we will use some of what they have to facilitate that, but in our minds, it must be, we are creating this for us. That's all I want to contribute this afternoon.
Thank you so very much, Elder. Thank you, because you're doing exactly what you're saying. You're not just contributing, but you're doing that, teaching exactly what Prof is recommending. Form these groups and start educating. It's the same thing that Brother Manik and his Organic African Plan is doing, just teaching groups around, and you see people joining these organizations. Prof?
Yeah, I just want to tell my brother, I agree 100%. There is no resistance in that. I could have expressed that as an extension of what I was talking, because I teach my children in my house. I'm part of groups formed in my community. Notwithstanding whatever, even though we force changes in the school, we make sure that every one of my households, meaning all of my children, we have an African library in that household. We have an African shrine to the ancestors in that household. And we pay devotion to them, both the learning and the ancestors. And we must develop the curriculum to the most finite level and teach ourselves and act in our separate world. Where we intersect in his world, we also make that demands on him. But I don't expect his acquiescence. I agree with you, sir.
Right, one last call, and Prof, you conclude. Hello? Hello?
Yes, Dr. Susan, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, greetings. It's lovely to see you, and always pleasure to listen to you. And my greetings to Elder Professor Smalls. With all the respect, I really my gratitude to people like him that are doing almost everything to bring us together and into this whole conversation about how to move forward. I would like to point out in what he mentioned about the situation of South Africa, as we have been talking about South Africa, including their Sharpeville massacre and all that. I would like to say, I'm not sure if I can pose this as a question to Prof, because I have an opinion that coming the moment of 1994, when South Africa was had ended its independence, I have got an opinion that a lot was put aside in compromise about principle and the major goal for independence. So they have compromised to gain freedom instead of independence or liberation. And that we still see right now with the state of things and the state of how things have been in South Africa for a very long time. People see as a free country, but it's nowhere close to an independent country. And it marked a very, very crucial point in terms of how neocolonialism proceeded, because South Africa represented all that which neocolonialism wanted to establish. And South Africa became a powerful country in Africa, to the extent that the whole Africa regarded South Africa as a powerful nation in Africa, as a model to which they should formulate their policies in accordance. And all that became a misleading concept to the rest of other liberated countries. We see, I'm talking from growing up in a very close environment to South Africa. I was born in Mozambique, grew up in Zimbabwe and South Africa all together. And looking into it, I'm seeing the whole of SADC region coming into compromise because they have to come into a state of synchronized with what's going on in South Africa.
Okay.
And this also required compromising their principles of independence, because South Africa was and is still not in a position to compromise the apartheid status quo, especially economically. So in that regard, I'm not really sure how this can be tackled on, because it seems like even right now, with all we are doing in this regard, people still look to South Africa as the powerhouse. Yes, in so many ways it is. But is independence ever been established in South Africa? I doubt very much. I think there was a huge compromise that happened, and that betrayed the principles of liberation and independence. And they only gained the freedom, yes, to learn freely at school, even though it was just
okay. So do you want to ask a question, or you want him to comment on that? Because I think everything is just the same thing.
I think because the time is up for us, we don't want to push you over.
I wanted to come with a
No, brother, have to respect the time now. The time, you have said a lot.
And I hear the solution on giving to like forming groups, study groups, and all that, and the values of a family. I wanted to ask on that basis, if I have to teach my children, where will I start if my children, the first paper at creche or preschool is a white and black lined paper? That's the kids are learning as the starting point.
Okay.
And as a family.
Okay, but our time is up now, so you have to end your question there now, so because Susan has to go off air. But I got the gist of the question.
Okay.
And the response is very simple. Teach the children the truth. Teach the children the history. Teach the history as is observed and interpreted by your own people. That is the key. It's not magical, but it is magical, you know? But it's not complicated. Let's tell the truth. How can we pretend and create a friendship with someone based on falsehood and pretense? Let's tell the truth. Let everyone face the truth. Then we can resolve the contradiction which came about from the lie and the betrayal. And the books, we are trying to establish that library now on Pan-African Daily TV. So in the future, you will have access to all of the curricula and the books you would need to teach your children.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Brother Dauda from Canada. And yes, we are rounding up and we're already at the end. And I want to thank all of us. And I know everyone enjoyed this program, but I just don't see everyone liking or those that are new here subscribing. So if we didn't remind you, because when Prof is here, all we do is just to listen and pay attention. No time for publicity or time for reminders. But you can see our chat has been very active. Our commentators, the team on the board have been reminding us. So we thank all of you for contributing to this program today. Those that have donated, we really appreciate your support, because we need every single franc to continue to exist. We don't want to get finances from exactly what we're saying, from the opposite. They would give us $1 million today. We'll be entertaining here, right? And we'll be saying things and laughing, which is what most of us are doing now. Africans in the other color actually selling out what we should not be doing because we don't support each other. So a symbol of unity also is like we need to empower ourselves by supporting, so that we keep these things free from infiltrators and from hijackers of this program. So I want to thank Prof so very much, and we'll stay in touch with you. I don't know how your program looks like at the end of the week. We wanted to talk about really the structures, so I'll get back to you after the show. Thank you so much for being. One last word. Do you want to say one last word? We can just go
I
out
would
like
tell
that.
people to donate to Pan-African Daily TV. Whatever you can donate, $1, 1 franc, 1 drachma, whatever the monies are called, 1 CD, donate, because it can't stay on the air if we don't support it with our cash donations. That's important.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you. We see us, yes, every time soon again. Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good. We are coming to the end of this program. Before we leave and separate ourselves, I want to thank all of you that has actually been, there were close to 300 people watching only from this source and from our Pan-African Daily TV Facebook pages. We also saw all these numbers that each time they hear the name Professor James Small, I mean, actually everyone is just rushing in. No one wants to miss this show. I think for one of our honorable guests we are celebrating today is those that joined in lately. We celebrated King Bongane of the Embo Kingdom, who had his birthday yesterday. But of course, we also celebrating Dr. Edwin Nichols and wishing him all the happy Earth Day, sending him love and respect for his engagement. He clocked the ripe age of 90 yesterday. And of course, those that also missed the beginning, we're also celebrating, of course, the passing away of our elder, Dr. Kevin Kaunda, at the age of 97. So we all want to keep the spirit connected. Now we also see one of the biggest advantage of Pan-Africanism is you stay young. Now, if you look at all the ancestors, apart from the ones from whatever reasons were murdered or, of course, died also because of illness and untimely deaths, as we say, they all live above 80, 90. Look at Dr. Leona, look at Professor James SMALL, look at Professor Lumumba, look at Dr. Arikena. So if you have a spirit of Pan-Africanism, of unity, and you are race loyal, we're not against any other, we're a global world, but we're saying if you have a spirit for your people, your ancestors, and the God that created you, you live long. You live long and you stay young. Look at Dr. Edwin Nichols and give me his age. At 90, no way. No way. He is much smarter, much intelligent. I don't know what Professor James SMALL would have said to this, because it's like the more engaged, despite all the challenges, they stay young. Isn't that enough? Because Pan-Africanism tells you about a healthy living, about a free mind, a spirit of connection, a spirit of respect, humility, everything that is virtue to life. Pan-Africanism doesn't tell you you must rob your brothers to become the most powerful. Pan-Africanism doesn't teach us to exploit one another and become the more intelligent or the more rich. Pan-Africanism doesn't teach us to be the more accurate person, or I'm the top professor. Or Pan-Africanism doesn't teach you, Dr. Susan, to say I am the one doing the best show or the others not. Pan-Africanism doesn't teach us anything that I win without you winning. That is the spirit of unity that our sister was saying. Before I go out, I have to train myself. If I see one of me, how do I react? That is also one of the biggest topic we'll be doing on the Pan-African Daily TV. Please, Naisha, give me just 3-4 minutes. This is very important what I'm saying before you shut me down on the studio. It is very critical to put the action behind the word unity, behind the word Pan-Africanism. If we don't begin to allocate these narratives, these adjectives to describe what exactly Pan-Africanism is, we will still just be dreaming, using words, but we don't know how to actually put those words into day-to-day life and action. Our sister, our queen that called in, said something so useful. She said it, before I go out, I train myself. If I see one of me, how do I react? That is very fundamental, particularly in the diaspora, particularly in Europe, but particularly in Germany, and particularly in the systems where we still have, very conservative cultural structures. An African meets an African, they don't greet. They even walk away. They even throw their face away. We call them throwaway face, in the African vernacular. English, we say we throw face. So why are you throwing your face away? Why are you throwing your face at me? I like that slang. Because it is something. What is it that makes you feel inferior when you see someone that looks like you? So that is where the education of the action unity starts. The action unity is not us sitting here every day watching in our numbers and then going back the same. If you watch the Pan-African Daily TV every day with Professor James, with Professor, all our professors that we have here, and you go back and you wake up, something doesn't change, then something is wrong. You need to start questioning yourself. So the theory is what we keep asking the same questions, even though we're being taught and we're being spoken or redirected in a very simple format, like what he was teaching here. Most of all the questions was exactly just what he was saying, and we repeating it. So one of us teach. You know what? The best teacher is teach your own self first. You cannot convert another person when you are an unbeliever of Pan-Africanism. Let's use some terms and some words that maybe would make other people to tune up their ears. When we say, you're an unbeliever, so you're a non-Pan-African. Let us begin to use those keywords that you're familiar with to actually put some action or make the difference. Because if I say you're an unbeliever, and my fellow Christians or believers of religious system would like, I'm not faithful to Christ. Yes, so let's put it in that format. You are an unbeliever to Pan-Africanism if you are inferior to someone that looks like you. And just even the culture that you grew up, that your ancestors brought you, trained you, nurtured you, fed you with it, to say the simplest thing that we do to connect is to jambo jambo. Jambo jambo. Yeah, jambo jambo. Remember, even in Africa, we shout on the street. Hoo-hoo, hello. We clap hands. Where has that gone? Those are the action that are put in front to actually display unity. Yes, you can say, yeah, most of us, we just do it in our heart. We are black, and black in that kind of a negative sense. Of course, who is not? Who sees the heart apart from the creator? But the actions that we do on daily basis could actually portray what the heart is. If I give you a warm smile, if I thank you, if I appreciate you, if I listen to you, it doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. I have the patience to listen. If I don't criticize you, if I don't portray a kind of know-all about where people are, if I don't allow others to speak and always think that I know everything, those are the little components of what disunite us. And we're looking and putting fingers at even the bigger picture. We have to start from the least unit, which is us. So today I want to leave you with this. Jambo jambo. If you are an African anywhere on the continent or in the diaspora, like my sister said, she just gave us one step that we'll be learning every day. So tips for today. Lesson number 1, before I leave my house, psychologically, I think I have to meditate. Now I'm leaving this space. I'm going into the outer space, and I will be getting interactions and exchange. I will greet every other person. But what is it that makes me actually like smile to people that don't look at me? If you're one of those that would throw face, learn lesson number 1 today. Don't do it. Don't do it as from today. That is lesson number 1. So we will start teaching these actions, this unity, by simple basic techniques, how we react without being conscious. And we're talking about Afrocentric consciousness. The consciousness will be giving each day a lesson to just get back on track. 200 and how many are watching me because they came to watch great professor. He's gone, and most of us have to go back to work. I want to thank you. But these 200 that are still watching, and those on the platforms out there, please learn one thing today. Throw those bad habits, things that you learned and picked along the way. Lesson number 1, I say again, before you leave to go to work, before you leave and step out of your door and your space, remind yourself, I'm getting out into the open space where I will meet multitudes. How do I react? That is lesson number one. So I want to thank all of you. Tomorrow we're going to have Ambassador Williams. Ambassador Williams is also Professor James, born in Nigeria, and he's been the ambassador to the Caribbean, not a political ambassador, but a Pan-African ambassador, putting out in terms of business and culture, connecting. Most of us, we've heard his very straight critical works here and his words actually to empower the youth. And he's coming back this time because he's been in Kenya, I think, for close to 2 months with Professor Pierre Lumumba, and they have been visiting countries and leaders around there, putting up some structures. He wants to give us a feedback to tell you we are more stronger than ever. Don't give up. If you thought for 1 second that we're just making noise, as the usual statement is, please think about it again. The country is rolling. And if you want to be a part, make sure you are on it. So we're going to get Ambassador Williams tomorrow on this show, on a one-on-one like this, to teach us unity, 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 and nothing less, nothing more, unity. Thank you so much, and we see ourselves tomorrow. I'm so happy this show has been a very brilliant one, and the one yesterday. But please join us on our premiere on the news on happenings around the diaspora like we did yesterday. We started with the continent of Africa, and we give some headlines. We're not going to be touching all anytime, but we now want to get back to the diaspora, and the diaspora want to focus on the Caribbean and the African American. Then on next week, we'll be doing that 3 times a week for news. We'll focus on Europe, we'll focus on UK, we'll focus on mainland continent and the different regions on the continent, and we'll focus on the diaspora. Yes, so what are we doing? We're building correspondents out there. If you are interested to be a correspondent out there, what would you be doing? Interviews, stories, talking to people. On what topic? Unity, unity, unity. We want a lot of correspondence, people going out and just interviewing Africans on what does it mean to be united and what Pan-Africanism means to them. If you are anxious, you need only your handy, you need only your mobile phones, and we are done. So I want to see 54 participants and more, 100, 200 signing in to the Pan-African Daily TV using the WhatsApp number +49 1578 211 2379, or you send us an email and said, I am a part. I don't want to throw. I want to look at my brother in the face and say we are united. That action is going around, and we are starting it already in July. So you'll be going to the street and talking to Africans. What is Pan-Africanism and what does it mean being united as African people? Thank you so very much, and we see ourselves tomorrow. Good night. Asante sana, medase, beriwo, miyaka, getanat. Bye.
You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 #1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.